On AM 970, The Answer. Mike Davis is founder of the Article 3 Project, former law clerk for Justice Neil Gorsuch, former chief counsel for nominations for the U.S. Senate Committee on the Judiciary, and kind enough to join us this morning. Mike, welcome back to the show. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me on.
And you know what? You have a couple of great articles. We're retweeting them, re-Xing them out. Mike Davis, let me go here, if I may, sir, how the Trump DOJ is holding Google accountable. This is great news, Mike. Walk us through this, if you would, please.
This is crucially important, Joe. Today is the start of the antitrust remedies trial to break up Google's online advertising monopoly. Google controls all sides of the online advertising market, and it uses the proceeds as the lifeblood to cancel conservatives and others with whom Google disagrees, shutter small businesses, and crush competition. And President Trump, in his first term, started these antitrust lawsuits on Google search. That's already over, and now Google, it's called ad tech, online advertising, and President Biden did almost nothing right, but one thing that his team did right is they continued these two Trump-Google antitrust lawsuits, and now President Trump and Attorney General Pam Bondi and President Trump's team at the Justice Department are finishing the job. This is a crucially important remedies trial in the Eastern District of Virginia, Alexandria, Virginia, in front of Judge Brinkema, and I am hoping that the judge breaks up Google's online advertising monopoly, because Google is a clear advertising monopolist.
Yeah, and what about censorship with the whole Jimmy Kimmel thing, Mike Davis? You know, who got censored? They took Donald Trump. They censored Donald Trump inside out and backwards. And when you have these big companies, these big social media companies, and they clearly worked with the Biden White House to censor Donald Trump. No one talking about that. It's vital that you are talking about it, Mike Davis. So this is something that it will work out. Hopefully the outcome will be positive, sir, you know?
I mean, the problem with Jimmy Kimmel is he's a dreadful loser with low ratings. And when this dreadful loser wants to celebrate the assassination, the murder of a leading political person in America, and wants to denigrate that murdered person's supporters for mourning his murder, then Jimmy Kimmel proves why the executives of his company fired him. He's when you thought Jimmy Kimmel's ratings couldn't get lower, he grabs a shovel.
Yeah, it's so true. And Mike, while we have you, just on this particular issue about the Trump DOJ holding Google accountable. So you're saying the monopoly will be broken up, and a sweeping proposal, reading from Mike Davis's article here that we just retweeted out, to rip apart Google's monopolistic chokehold on the ad tech market. The plan forced Google to sell its ad exchange. This is going to be complicated, but will they really dismantle Google, Mike Davis?
That is the hope. That is what the Trump Justice Department is asking the courts to do. Judge Brinkema in the Eastern District of Virginia. She's a Democrat appointee appointed by Clinton, but she's a fair judge, and she's the judge who oversaw the Moussaoui trial, the 9/11 murderer trial back in, I think it was 2006 and 2007. She's no nonsense. I think the evidence is overwhelming that there's already been a finding that Google is a monopolist in the online advertising market. Now the next step in this remedies trial is to figure out what Judge Brinkema is going to do about it. And I think that she's going to follow the Justice Department's recommendation and break up Google's online advertising monopoly, because, again, Google controls all sides of it. They make billions of dollars off of this, and they use that money to crush competition, silence, cancel political opponents, and shutter small businesses. And so this is a prime example why we have our century-old antitrust laws, because Google has too much power, and it's using its market power to crush competition, which harms consumers.
We always appreciate your vital information, Mike. It's just inexcusable what's happening here. And when I go to Google in the morning, and it's early, and we get up very early for the show, and I try to see what news is coming from what outlet, all I get on Google is all the old mainstream media, which Charlie Kirk, rest his soul, said, we are the media now. Mike Davis, you are the media now. And it's great, but Google still sticks to NBC and to CBS and to Politico. And you can't get an honest answer, you know. That's why we're proud of Salem. We're objective at least, but it is a struggle. Maybe this will maybe get a message to Google to be more objective, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, here's the problem. Elon Musk spent $44 billion to buy Twitter, now X, in this bad investment, but he did it for the greater good of society. Yeah. What happens if Elon Musk sells X? And then how are we going to get out our news? And remember this. Remember when Parler started, a competitor to the old liberal woke Twitter, what happened? You had Google and Apple kick Parler out of the App Store duopoly, and then Amazon kicked Parler off the Internet. So they could do that again anytime they want. And that's why we have to use our antitrust laws to break up their market power, their monopolistic power, because, again, anytime they want to crush X, they can.
Yeah, this is great, though, that we're in the wheelhouse, that we are able to do this. I mean, because it's been too long, and it's great that we will be with Donald Trump in office. We have about 3 years and hopefully more to clean this up. And let me go to this other article that you wrote, Mike Davis, and thank you for your valuable time, sir. Trump's latest pick to reform the federal judiciary is another home run. Looking good on the judges, you're telling us, huh, sir?
Yes, President Trump's biggest and most consequential accomplishment of his first term was the transformation of the Supreme Court and the critically important federal courts of appeals to the first constitutionalist majority in 90 years. And sometimes they disappoint us, as you'll hear from my loud mouth. But overall, this is a very consequential Supreme Court. And President Trump's going to build on this biggest accomplishment in his second term, and he's going to do it with judges like Rebecca Tableson, who's President Trump's nominee for a Wisconsin-based seat on the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals, a crucial court of appeals in the Midwest. And Rebecca Tableson clerks for the late, great Justice Scalia. She clerked for then-Judge Kavanaugh. I remember Rebecca Tableson because when I was the chief counsel for nominations on the Senate Judiciary Committee for Justice Kavanaugh's confirmation after the Me Too nonsense, it was Rebecca Tableson who was bold and courageous enough to put her career on the line and come out there and say that these allegations are bogus. They don't fit within then-Judge Kavanaugh's character, and Becca played a critical role in getting Kavanaugh confirmed. She's the ideal pick for the Seventh Circuit. No judge is perfect. With every nominee, you have to weigh the pros and cons, but she is a very solid pick. She's a former federal prosecutor. She's been a strong constitutionalist, and she will be an outstanding judge on the Seventh Circuit.
This is great. And Mike, while we have you, I got to ask you about things that have happened that we're waiting to see what's going on. Like Fannie Willis, she got her due down in Fulton County. You talked about this from day one. Tish James, we're still waiting to hear about that fraud situation. And Jack Smith just walks away. I guess he didn't even get dinged up by that Mar-a-Lago raid. Where does all that land, if I may ask, Mike, before we let you go, sir?
I would say that my good friend Jason Redding Quinones is the newly confirmed U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida, and I have very publicly said that he should open a special grand jury and in Fort Pierce, Florida, where they did the Mar-a-Lago raid. Maybe Judge Cannon can run it and run the lawfare investigation there, because these Democrats politicized and weaponized law enforcement and intel agencies. Going back to Hillary Clinton's campaign, this is the biggest scandal in American history, and justice is definitely coming.
Yeah, Mike Davis, great chatting with you always. Please keep up the great work and come back anytime, sir, please.